in 1492, there was a sudden reversal of the flow of wealth and power. The wealth and power until 1492 was in the Ottoman Empire, it was in India, and in the Chinese Empire. That's where all the wealth and power was. But 1492 changed everything. Once we opened up trade with the Americas, we had access to new resources, especially enormous quantities of gold. And everything reversed. The Ottoman Empire was frankly dying on the vine for a couple of centuries before it finally fell over. In other words, wealth, power, technology, it all came together in Europe. And from Europe, it went to North America. What I said several months ago was that I see the trend is now reversing. The trend in terms of power, technology, wealth, gold, silver, rare earths, everything else, that is moving towards Asia. Asia is the new powerhouse. And who are the new great powers? Well, China is obviously going to be the dominant power in Asia. What do the Egyptians want to do? They want to go to war. They want to mobilize and march against Israel. But as it becomes increasingly clear that we have failed, that we can no longer impose our will, despite our efforts to do so, prompted by Israel, and that Israel is now severely weakened, its ground force, please, the Israeli Defense Force on the ground is in ruins. They have people that don't show up for duty. Nobody has an appetite for any more fighting. Israel is entirely dependent now on its air force and its missiles. So what happens in the future? I mean, you can paint a number of grim pictures, but I think the picture is pretty obvious. Once it becomes clear that our offensive has failed against Iran to dislodge the Iranians from their position, then we leave. And people say, oh, we can't leave. We don't live there. We're visitors. Yeah. We're temporary. So who are the winners? The people that you've been noting: China, India, Russia, Iran, Persia. I have always warned against this entire operation after 7 October. I told my Israeli friends who don't want to talk to me anymore because I wouldn't support their program, that this could be the end of Israel. And they said, no, it won't. Watch us. Well, what's the key to success for Israel? It's continued uninterrupted control of the United States armed forces and state apparatus. As long as we are subordinate to them and are competing for the opportunity to do whatever they tell us, they'll survive. When that ends, it's over. The Gulf states have played a dangerous game. They played the game that we have America to protect us. We have America on our side. Therefore, you have to tolerate us. Not anymore. Where are they living? Most of the elites have fled. They're in Europe or Egypt right now, waiting and watching to see what happens next. I think the old status quo is gone, and that's been the message the Iranians have sent repeatedly, and they're right. They said, we did not suffer this war and fight this war to preserve what was here before the war started. They want us out of the region, and quite frankly, I think they're going to be successful. I think this entire episode is the last gasp of European colonialism. And I think all of us who are non-residents are going to be booted out. We're not native to the region. We're not going to rule there. That's the problem with Israel. You know, you often hear people say, well, this or that is an artificial construct. Is Israel an artificial construct? Yes, it is. How many Jews were living in Jerusalem and the surroundings in 1915? Roughly 15,000. Why were they there? Well, they were planted there over their objections, by the way, by the Turkish Sultan, because he said, I want you to help stimulate economic development in Palestine. And so they went there, they were given generous tax breaks, and they were there to set up businesses. That's what they were there for. Now, suddenly we ended up with the Balfour Declaration, the Sykes-Picot Agreement, and we ended up ultimately with this Israeli state. But it truly is an artificial construct insofar as it's alien to the region in which it resides. And that's why in the various corridors of power, whether it's Riyadh or Damascus or Cairo, it doesn't matter where you go in the region, everyone says the same thing. Sykes-Picot is over. It's done. You know, once this ends, it's a new world. China has been talking about the old world crumbling. It's crumbling. It's gone. We're going to see a new order arise. Now, is that going to be oppressive? Is it going to be progressive? I have no idea, but it's going to be different. And it's at least it's going to be determined by people who live there as opposed to foreigners.